Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kens TV in the house like kitchen sinks. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to hit that post notification so anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Now, with no further ado, let's get into this afternoon's video, if you will. Day after Christmas. It's approximately 4 o'clock p.m., give or take a few minutes. I just want to say, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. Especially the people that wish me, Merry Christmas and sent cash apps and all those things that you definitely didn't have to do, but you thought of them and you did it anyway. So definitely salute to you. Now, with that being said, there is a message. It's definitely a message today. Oftentimes people ask me, Real Kens, how is it in prison, during this holiday or that holiday or, this particular case, Christmas? It took me back to a story, or a situation rather, the meanest lady in corrections, Miss Miller. Miss Miller was one of those people that she had to let you know that she was running things. At this particular time, Miss Miller had to have been 65, somewhere right around in that range. She had been in the Department of Corrections for a long time. If you're from Kentucky, you've been in the Department of Corrections, I'm quite sure that somebody's heard of Miss Miller. Miss Miller would come in the morning times, because, you had to be up at, out of your bed by 7 o'clock. They come in and count you and, things of that nature. She would come in at like 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning, just banging on, she had like the lid off of one of those, the old aluminum garbage cans, and she'd have like a drumstick, and she'd come in just banging on the, on the lid, just waking people up. Get up, clean up. And we didn't even have to be up for another hour and 15 minutes. But she would do so. Why? Simply because she could. Very, very honoring individual. So in this particular situation, I never will forget, it was close to Christmas. I'd say maybe about a week and a half before Christmas. Now, Miss Miller, she ran a tight ship. I'm not even gonna lie. She ran a tight ship. Now, I wasn't in a county jail, but I wasn't in a prison either. I was in it's kind of like in between. It's a work camp. Low-level inmates. You go there, supposed to be a privilege. You go out and work in the community. You don't make real money. You make like $12.60 a month. And they really have you doing real work out in the community. You see what I'm saying? It's supposed to be, they use that as a tool. Actually, they use it as a weapon. They weaponize it. Now, the reason I say they weaponize it is that they tell you, well, if you mess up here, you're going to prison. Well, a lot of them guys, they were afraid to go to prison. They didn't want to, you see what I'm saying? They didn't want to go to prison. Now, me, myself, now I know it sounds like a messed up way of thinking. They knew I didn't give a damn. I would have rather been in prison. I ain't asked to come there anyway. So they knew I didn't care. Send me to prison. You can't threaten me. You can't use that as a weapon with me. I'll send you to prison. Shit, let's go. Let's gas it up. You know what I mean? So, and again, that was my way of thinking back then. And even to this day, if I was incarcerated, send me to prison before you send me to a work camp. Because again, man, I ain't no bootlicking trustee. Respectfully. But at any rate, it was about, a week and a half, 10 days or so before Christmas. And it was an older gentleman, he was about 65 years old. He was about the same age as Miss Miller. Maybe a couple years younger, but he was definitely in his 60s. I'm not going to use his real name. I rarely use real names on my channel, so we'll call him BT. So that's his initials. That's his real initials. We'll call him BT. BT was asking one of the correction officers for I don't know what it was, some disinfect. It was something like that, because in prison, you have to check that stuff out. Now, when I say check it out, you have to give them your ID. They give you the spray bottle. Then when you bring the spray bottle back, they give you your ID back. So you're accountable for anytime you hand over your ID, you're accountable for what they give you. So, he gets the spray bottle. He goes, I think he's trying to clean the bathroom. It was something like that. BT was a very, very clean individual. So, he was always cleaning, even when it wasn't his job to do so. So when he goes to return the spray bottle, the officer who's at the window, and when I say the window, he's in an office. So it's kind of like, how like when you go to the doctor and you check in with the receptionist, she's sitting at the window. Well, that's how the correction officer's office was. So knock on the window and he'll open the glass. He'll slide the glass door open. Pause. So BT's sitting there for about 5 minutes. The officer's on the phone. BT leaves. He comes back. The officer's still on the phone. So eventually, he's just sitting there. He's waiting or whatever. The officer never even acknowledges him. Never, tells him, hold on, give me just 1 second or anything. BT patiently waits or what have you. Eventually, the officer gets off the phone. He still doesn't acknowledge BT. So, BT's, as I mentioned, he's sitting there and he's waiting because now the officer's writing something down. So he figures, okay, whatever he was on the phone about, he has to, write this information down and he'll get to me. It was another 10 minutes or so. The officer still didn't say anything. So BT knocks on the window like, hey, man, I'm trying to get my ID back. Here's your spray bottle. The officer just ignores him. So BT storms off. He's heated. He don't say anything. He says something, but he, saying it under his breath. Storms off. Next thing you know, you hear, BT report to the officer station. They call him up to the officer station. I just happened to be right there at that particular time. Happened to be right there because my job was, it was some new people coming in. So whenever new people came in, I was like over the property room. So I was responsible for, hold on, let me rewind that. I worked in the property room. I was responsible for handing out coats, state uniforms, boots, things of that nature when new inmates arrived. I wasn't over anything. See what I'm saying? I prefer not to even be working, but you had to have a job. So I was standing right there because the property room is right there by the officer station. Had no choice. BT's talking to the officer. They're having words, but it's nothing really disrespectful. BT's just like, well, I've been standing, I've been trying to get my ID back at this point for 45 minutes now, and you didn't even, acknowledge me, man. You didn't even. So they're going back and forth. The officer is trying to exhort his power, if you will, and tell BT that he had to go clean like a totally different bathroom or something in another dorm. BT was like, that's not my job. The janitor's job. I have a job. That's not my job to go do that. Next thing you know, people's coming in the dorm rather. We lived in a dorm. It was probably about 50-man dorm. So it was 50 people in the dorm. And next thing you know, they're coming in with those black bags. When you see those black bags, you all that's been locked up before, you know exactly what that means. Somebody's getting packed up. They're coming in, they're packing up BT's belongings, all his property. They locked BT down. They took him over to the lockdown side. Now, the lockdown side is the county side. That's the side you don't want to go to. Because essentially, you're going back to the county jail. So, they made him put his hands behind his back or whatever. He's like, what'd I do? I didn't do anything. They bring in 4 or 5 officers, they very, very, they try to be intimidating. They really just little squares for real, little nerds. But they come in like they so tough and they got their hands on their mace and you see what I'm saying? And they got what do you call it? The things where they shock you with. They got all that stuff in jail. So nevertheless, they lock him down, take him to the lockdown side. The lockdown side is awful at this particular place because you don't have anything. I'm talking about all the property, all the food that you have, hygiene, things that you've bought off the canteen. They don't allow you to take any of that to to the lockdown side. I know I've been to the lockdown side a time or two, if you will. So they took him to the lockdown side. Once you go to the lockdown side, they strip you. They take everything that you have. The only thing that you can take in is a jumpsuit, which is an orange jumpsuit. No underwear, no socks. They don't give you anything. No deodorant, no soap, nothing. So you have to wait for your people to send you some money, or if you already have money on your account, hopefully you do, you have to wait till the next store day. If you don't have anybody send you anything, man, you SOL. You don't have anything. You're just over there. Even though you have all these items in this bag that they've packed up with your property, you're on the lockdown side. Half the time you don't get a towel, you don't get a washcloth. You'll get it eventually. A towel and a washcloth that's been used by other inmates. It may take 2 days before you get a towel or a washcloth. Soap, things of that nature. It's 30 people in the dorm, 25, 30 people in the dorm on the lockdown side. They put 4 rolls of toilet paper a day in the dorm. So you can imagine, you're fighting for toilet paper. Like it's terrible. It's awful. And I understand how they get away with this, but they clearly get away with it. So they keep him on the lockdown side. He's writing Miss Miller. We had tablets. So you corresponded with Miss Miller or, staff or what have you through tablets. Miss Miller, why am I locked down? I don't understand why I'm locked down. I didn't even do anything. This officer said that I disobeyed a direct order. 27-year-old officer. I'm 65 years old. But he locks me down, and his word is law. What about my side? What about my story? What about what really happened? Miss Miller's just consistently ignoring it. So now once you're on the lockdown side, they have to do one or two things. They can't keep you on the lockdown side. They can, but they can't. This is oxymoron. And the reason I say that is they can keep you on the lockdown side for an extended period of time, but they can't just keep you forever. Either they have to send you back to the work side where you were originally, or they have to transfer you to another facility, or if you catch a write-up, they'll go ahead and transfer you to prison. So BT, he had done plenty of time, plenty of prison time. He didn't care about going. He's like me. He didn't care about going to prison. But y'all going to do something. Get me off this lockdown side. I shouldn't even be here. Not to mention, BT was relatively close to going home. He was in 2 classes. Now, the 2 classes that he was in, you get 90 days off your sentence each class. There were 6-month classes. He's in 2 at the same time. One class he had maybe 2 weeks left, and he's done. The other class he had maybe, another month. Once he finished those classes, they go back in, recalculate his time, give him those addiction. I was going to say a dictionary. That's not even the word, a dictionary. Additional 6 months credit. He's out the door. He's gone. He gets to go home, be with his family right around Christmas time. So, actually, it was going to be just after Christmas. So, eventually they bring him back to the work side after he sits on the lockdown side for like a month. No write-up, no anything. They bring him back. Well, the lady who's over the classes, she says that he's been thrown out of the class and he's not allowed to get back into the classes. So he's like, what do you mean? I didn't even do anything. I should have never even been locked down in the first place. Well, my officer said this. So that's how they do in jail and in prison. My officer. It's always what my officer said. Officers lie and make up shit, and they know that the people are going to ride with them. So that's why, well, my officer stated this, and you were disrespectful, and you were insubordinate, and they really want to be police officers, so they try to use real police terminology. You see what I'm saying? So they don't allow him to get back into his classes. They tell him he has to start all over. Then he has to go on a waiting list to get back into the next class. He's heated. He's fuming. Rightfully so. He's trying to talk to Miss Miller. Miss Miller's not trying to hear anything that he's talking about. In addition to that, Miss Miller, he loses his job, which he had like a relatively easy job. He's 65 years old. He was working at the senior citizens home. Go to the senior citizens home. That was a beauty job. You had a senior citizens home, basically, but it's not a home. It's an activity center, rather. So, the senior citizens, they come in every day and eat breakfast and lunch. And it was a beautiful thing. They bring in a band and You know, they have different activities for the senior citizens. I used to love working there because I eventually worked there. But at that point, I didn't work there. And you literally eat whatever you want to eat. There's a kitchen in there, and you go in there and cook with a steak, taco, salad, chicken, whatever. Whatever you wanted to cook every day. So you ate very, very well at the senior citizens home. They treated you like a normal person. They didn't treat you like dirt. You got to mingle and interact with the public, even though you really wasn't supposed to talk to the public, but, you know, not robots. They took that job from me. Miss Miller's so ornery. Let me tell you about Miss Miller now. She's so ornery. She puts him on the garbage truck. The garbage truck is for young men. You know how they come around and they pick up your garbage every morning or certain days, once a week or what have you? They had him on the back of a garbage truck at 65 years old. After 1 or 2 days, he comes in, he tells her, Miss Miller, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I can't keep up with this. You know, the guys are complaining because I'm taking too long to grab the garbage and dump it and then jump back on the truck, and I'm slowing them down. This is a young man's game. I can't do this. Miss Miller's not trying to hear anything that he's talking about. In addition, once again, he was on a bottom bunk. As he should be, 65 years old. Not when he came back from lockdown. You're no more special than anyone else, Mr. BT. You're on the top bunk. So now she puts him on the top bunk. Imagine your grandfather, your grandmother, your mother, at 65 years old, climbing onto a top bunk, like a bunk bed. Puts him on the top. People was volunteering. I'd volunteer, hey, he can have my bottom rack. Man, he shouldn't be on no top rack, Miss Miller. Because I had to interact with Miss Miller because she came in every day and inspected the property room and made sure this was this, that was that. And I acted like I liked her, but I couldn't stand her. You see what I'm saying? So, Miss Miller, man, he can have my bunk, man. You know, I'm cool with going to the top bunk. No, absolutely not. So she's making this man work the back of a garbage truck, climb the top bunk at 65 years old. They're the same age. She should have known exactly how that felt. She did know. She just didn't care. One thing about Miss Miller, she didn't have no picks. Black, white, Mexican, it didn't even matter. That's one thing I will say. She wasn't on no racist. If she was racist towards inmates. Miss Miller, I wish I could paint a picture of her. That's why I'm going to start editing, because I would put a picture up of Miss Miller, and you all would see exactly who she is. I don't know if you all ever seen the movie Flowers in the Attic. Great movie if you haven't seen it, by the way. But if you have seen the movie Flowers in the Attic, she looked just like the grandmother, the mean grandmother in Flowers in the Attic. Very, very disturbing, to say the least. So he continues, to go out on the garbage truck. He's having a rough time. One particular day, the garbage truck, they get in a wreck. They hit another car. When they hit the car, he's on the back of the garbage truck. He flies off the garbage truck. Boom. He's injured. He's messed around. Miss Miller immediately rushes to the scene. They call the jail. She immediately rushes to the scene. It just so happens to where it was a police officer that was right there that witnessed the accident. He took the report. He was right there. They called the ambulance. When the ambulance comes, BT's whole arm is messed up. He can't move his arm, his shoulder, his elbow, his entire arm. His side, he's messed up. If I haven't mentioned it, he was like 65 years old. Now I'm being rhetorical, but you get what I'm saying. She had been there for so long, she pretty much knew all the officers and the ambulance, the staff, basically, medical staff. So she tells them, listen, we're going to handle this in-house. We'll take him back to the jail and have our medical staff evaluating. He wants to go to the hospital. He's messed up. They won't let him go to the hospital. They bring him back to jail. Once again, the black bags come in. They pack up all his property. They send him to the hole. Now, they don't call it the hole, but it is a hole. They say it's for medical evaluation. It's the whole locked down 24 hours a day, pretty much. They wouldn't let him use the phone. They wouldn't let him get visits. If he tried to send out mail, they would intercept his mail. And he sit in the hole for about a month and a half. Medical evaluation. By the time he came out, he was still messed around, but he had healed up to where he didn't have any scratches and scrapes and anything like that on him. So now he comes out of the hole. He's not able to get back into his classes. That's going to help him. Also, it's going to help him to be released. Miss Miller is still putting him on the top bunk. And it's just like a person with an outsider that's never been to jail, they would be like, now, hold on. Something's not right with this story. How can she get away with that? What can you do? Who you going to tell? Who you going to complain to? The process that they give inmates, as far as complaints, is filing a grievance. And them officers, they'll tell you, make sure you spell my name right, buddy. They don't give a damn about you filing no grievance. Because the grievance never leaves the facility. It's supposed to go to the state capitol, to Frankfurt. That's what it is here in Kentucky. And that's where they handle, that's where the official Department of Corrections is located. And they're supposed to evaluate. It never gets there. They're not going to allow it to get there. So you're just in a situation where you're stuck. You can't do anything. Eventually, BT, he just has enough, and he just outright just curses Miss Miller out. Here come the black bags. Packing him up again, sending him to the lockdown side. She's so nasty, she keeps him over for about 3 or 4 months before she finally transfers him out. And eventually, he was able to get transferred. He got away from that place. I know that once he was released, he filed a lawsuit against that facility. I'm not exactly sure what the outcome of the lawsuit was, but he definitely filed a lawsuit against them. And I hope he got everything and then some as far as what he deserved. See, a lot of times when you're in those predicaments and you're in those situations, there's a lot of Miss Millers. There's a lot of them. And they just treat you any type of way. Any kind of way. No respect for you, no nothing. I understand you'd say, okay, well, don't go to prison. Don't get yourself into trouble. What do you think it's supposed to be, a cakewalk? Do you think that it's supposed to be? No, but you still treat people as human beings. Regardless of what the situation is, you wouldn't talk to me like this on the streets. You know you wouldn't. But now you in here and you got your big bodyguards walking around with you. They soft as cotton, most of them. But they got the most powerful weapon. No, it's not the shot. It's not the tasers. It's not the mace. It's not the little billy clubs. It's not the little weapons that they carry around. Now they got that pen. See, the pen is the most powerful weapon because when they put pen to paper, it equals one thing, a write-up. And typically, a conviction comes behind that. And once they convict you, now you have this conviction, so you go before the parole board. In the state of Kentucky, you don't see the parole board. They evaluate, basically, they evaluate your file. So if they look at your file and they see, oh, well, BT, he refused to work. He had a problem. He was insubordinate. He was told to do this, and he was just, he wouldn't do it. But you don't get to go and talk and explain for yourself. Now, certain people get to see the parole board, but those are the higher level, murders, violent robberies, rapes, but lower level crimes, they review your file. And whatever's in your file is what they go off of. Sad, man. Because they say, well, this guy, he doesn't know how to act right while incarcerated, so why should we let him out? Here, give him another 15 months. Tell him come back and see us in 15 months. And we'll think about letting him out. And you haven't even done anything. Done absolutely nothing. All of this happened right before Christmas. During Christmas, it was going on. After Christmas, it continued. I often wonder about Miss Miller. Is she retired? Is she dead? I think I might put in a call and find out. Is Miss Miller still working there? I'd just like to know. Just for my own personal, no real meaning. I just want to know if she's still around. I want to know if karma's caught up with her yet. It was messed up, man. She had no empathy for that man that was the same age as she was whatsoever, throwing him on the back of that garbage truck. No empathy for that man when he was telling Miss Miller, I'm scared, I'm afraid for my life. I feel like I'm going to fall out of the top bunk. You know, I'm having to climb up and down several times a night to go to the restroom. It's a struggle for me. I'm afraid. Didn't matter to Miss Miller. It's just an example of how some, and I'm going to say most. I'm not even going to say some. I'm going to say most of these correction officers act when you're in prison. And again, I understand that it's not supposed to be fun. But don't make it harder on an individual than it needs to be. People are trying to get home to their families. They play a whole lot of games. Weaponizing the classes that they offer. Picking and choosing who they're going to put in the classes. If they don't allow you to get in the class, guess what? You can't force your way in. So they'll allow this person, and this person in. They're in 3 classes and you can't get in 1 class. Those 90 days add up that you get for every class that you complete. 90 days off your sentence. Definitely adds up. Don't be a Miss Miller. Don't be an individual if you're in a position of power, authority, you're a manager, a boss, owner, what have you. Don't be like Miss Miller and do things simply because you can't. Do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. Real Kens TV. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? Amongst the first to receive it. Need y'all start sharing my videos for me. It takes 10 seconds to share. 10, 15, 20 seconds at the most to share. For whatever reason, my content, when it's coming out, it's not being distributed, rather, if you will. So a lot of people are not even seeing my videos, and they come on later, and months later, it's like, whoa, where you been at? I've never heard of you before, man. You have nice content. You have, for whatever reason, my videos are not being pushed. So guess what? I need you all to push them for me. Just share them for me. If you enjoy my videos, simply share. Real Kens TV, man.